This is a mysterious landscape. Within its more than 200 square kilometers area, it not only condenses extraordinary power of nature, but also holds the key to an age-old civilization. Here, in the steep mountains and cliffs were left behind hanging coffins, a memory of over 3,000 years before. The memorial site of a kin city, desolated for over 2,000 years, records a once glorious local kingdom. The ideology of a sage began here, opening a new age of philosophy. Praised as a window to the world's creature, there is no other place in the world as biologically diverse. Deep in the mountains and ravines grows a mysterious kind of plant. The faint scent it gives off has changed the world's taste. This is a very simple church in the Tongmu village of Wuyi Mountain. Aside from the occasional sound of its bell ringing, many villagers have all but forgotten its existence. More than 100 years ago, when some Western missionaries built this church deep in the mountains, they didn't realize they were recording a piece of history. The history of the Western massive species exploration campaign and the history of the cradle of the world's black tea culture. Today, black tea accounts for 80% of the world's tea trade and has already become the beverage of choice in Western countries. But if we trace back the history of black tea culture, it doesn't go beyond a short 100 years, and its birthplace is right in Wuyi Mountain. In 1849, a business emissary was sent to Wuyi Mountain, carrying the mission given him by the British East India Company to collect various kinds of tea and their saplings. But as soon as this trained horticulturalist Fortune stepped foot into Wuyi Mountain, he almost immediately forgot what he came for. An incomparably abundant biological world appeared before his eyes, and he saw a huge number of species that he had never encountered before. This is the mysterious power of nature. About 3 million years ago, an ice age caused the whole world to experience a biological catastrophe. But miraculously, Wuyi Mountain escaped this fatal onslaught and thus became a refuge for many ancient organisms. Today, the plant types distributed throughout Wuyi Mountain are 7 times as many as in Europe. More than 1,000 new species have been discovered for the first time. The world biology community appraised it as a mecca for species research. At the time, Fortune returned to Europe carrying not only Wuyi Mountain teas, but also numerous animal and plant specimens, thereby triggering a wave of species exploration in the West. Western missionaries swarmed to Wuyi Mountain, and thus the Catholic Church of Tongmu Village was built. Wuyi Mountain's unique geographic environment not only makes it a window to the world's life forms, but also brought about the unique Wuyi tea. As early as the 14th century CE, the Yuan Dynasty Emperor inaugurated an imperial tea garden in Wuyi Mountain, making Wuyi rock tea an article of tribute to the imperial family. Wuyi rock tea is seen as the emblem of taste with its very particular implements and methods of brewing. Having evolved over 1,000 years, the series of ceremonies practiced around the drinking of tea have precipitated into a unique tea culture. Even in the Tianxin Yongle Zen Buddhist temple deep within the Wuyi Mountains, tea has become an inseparable part of the monks' lives. It is said that this tradition was already well established by the time the temple was erected in the Tang Dynasty. Planting and tasting tea has become for the monks a special Zen tea culture. It is said that the clover shrub the Tianxin temple monks grow holds the highest reputation amongst the tea trees of Wuyi Mountain and is called the king of teas. They grow on cliffs and their roots are nourished by spring water that seeps into cracks in the rock. There are currently only 4 individual clover shrubs left, so they are seen rare treasures. The unique Wuyi Mountain rock tea has made Wuyi Mountain an important tea trade distribution center ever since the Ming Dynasty. Today in Xiamen Historic Village, there stands a monument which records the extensive tea trade routes of that period. This long tea route started in Wuyi Mountain's Xiamen Village, went as far north as Russia and as far south as the British Isles. At the time, Xiamen Historic Village was a bustling spectacle. The draining Meisi River facing the street was a port of embarkation for shipping merchants, and the old houses along banks of the Meisi still today reveal its flourishing and populous nature in those days. Today, bamboo rafting on the Jiuquixi River has almost become an indispensable program for travelers to Wuyi Mountain. The less than 10-kilometer Jiuquixi River condenses the best of scenery at Wuyi Mountain. This is a feast for the eyes that Wuyi Mountain offers humanity. Just as travelers are enjoying the scenery along the banks with great interest, before they know it, they have already encountered a 3,000-year-old ancient civilization. In the towering cliffs along the bank, there are some caves. It is in these natural grottos that are lodged the great secrets of ancient times. Over the millennia, people have made various hypotheses about hanging coffins. We don't know who or for what purpose these people of a bygone age sent their deceased kin high into these cliffs. In 1978, a team of archaeologists came to Wuyi Mountain for the first time to attempt scientific archaeological testing on the hanging coffins and uncover the ancient mystery behind them. These valuable pictures record the arduous process of hoisting and removing those hanging coffins that year. This was the first time that archaeologists got so close to the coffins. When they brought the coffins back to the museum, the results of their examination were shocking. Using carbon-14 dating technique, the experts determined that the coffins were around 3,000 years old and also found that the coffins showed traces of metal making. Furthermore, among the articles buried with the dead, experts found the earliest piece of cotton textile in China. It is hard to imagine that the ancient people living in Wuyi had achieved such a high level of culture 3,000 years ago. But the most perplexing thing is the way that the coffins were installed. Facing the tens or even hundreds of meter-high cliffs, how were they able to place these several hundred-kilogram coffins into the caves? The experts have contrived various hypotheses and even conducted trials on location, but in the end have not been able to come up with a reasonable explanation. Today, these hanging coffins high in the cliffs still hold mysteries that forever leave us guessing. They alone face the boundless sky, passing on the eternal representation of an ancient civilization. In 1980, in another historic village of Wuyi Mountain, ruins of an ancient building were accidentally discovered in fields which villagers have cultivated for 1,000 years. These desolate and broken walls had experienced great changes of time and met with the Minnan region's strongest local kingdom during the time of the Han Empire, the Mingyue Kingdom. This ancient civilization disappeared over 2,000 years ago. The remains of the ancient city were scattered between the hills, covering an area of about 480,000 square meters. The excavated ruins indicate an ancient city with a cosmic organizational system, including not only large public baths but even structurally complex heating installations. Large amounts of ironware were also unearthed from the ancient city. Many types of equipment were not available in other contemporaneous regions. The iron spearheads unearthed were as long as 82 centimeters and iron plowshares as heavy as 15 kilograms. These findings filled in the archaeological gaps of the Han Dynasty. However, this advanced city didn't continue to flourish for very long, and its history ended rather abruptly. According to historical records, in the 2nd century BCE, because the Mingyue Kingdom rebelled against the rule of the Han Dynasty, they were subdued by the Han army, their city was burned down, and the common folk all moved to the north. The Mingyue city-state was covered with dust only 92 years after it was founded. After the Mingyue Kingdom had been sealed with dust for 1,000 some years, the ideas of certain sages emerged here and exerted an influence of over 700 years on the whole of China and nearby countries. This carefully preserved remnant of a building wall is from the first locally run university of ancient China, Wuyi College. Its founder is regarded as the greatest Chinese thinker following Confucius. Even more so, Western philosophers value his philosophy as having opened a whole new era of Neo-Confucianism. In the 14th century CE, the Emperor of China decreed that Zhu Xi's writings would be the main content of the imperial examination, and that his commentary on Confucianism would be the only officially recognized interpretation. Zhu Xi's school of thought henceforth set the standard for all human behavior and exerted a powerful influence over China and the neighboring countries for the next 700,000 years. Today, surrounded by crimson mountains and emerald waters, the residents of Wuyi Mountain still live a quiet life. But to the curious travelers, its peculiar and beautiful natural landscape is a result of 400 million years of geological changes. The rich Ming-Yue culture is a product of thousands of years of historical accumulation. They both are the most valuable treasures that Wuyi Mountain brings to humanity.